This particular video is going to be a little hard because this is going to be the most personal video in the series. We're going to talk about the philosophies of falconry and the things that I have learned over the past 50 years working with these animals. And so for this particular video especially, I am here at my home. I'm completely alone. My beautiful wife Susan is off at work, and it's just you and I. And I have this conversation with each and every one of my students somewhere along their falconry apprenticeship, because I want them to understand what it is and how important falconry is and the things that you can get out of it. And many of the students that I've talked to, this conversation went right over their heads. Some of them took it very, very much to heart and incorporated the philosophies of falconry into their lives. And I hope that you will do that. I hope that you will look at this very personal video and try to understand what it's meant for me personally to become a falconer. Falconry is extremely old. It's like 4,000 years old. Best evidence is it started in China. And falconry is an art form. There's lots and lots of different techniques and methods and styles of falconry that different people in different parts of the world practice. The style that I practice may be very, very different than the style that you're going to practice. As I have always said, you know, what I'm giving you today and throughout this video series is just my beliefs and my practices. You may think, well, that's not what I want to do, and that's fine. Depending on your situation, you will eventually develop your own style. And so anything that you hear or learn about falconry, please take it with a grain of salt. It doesn't mean that it's right for you. It doesn't necessarily even mean that it's right. So that's the first thing that you have to understand, is falconry is very, very much a personal thing. Now, falconry is the training of an apex predator bird of prey to hunt with. Now that's kind of the definition, but that really isn't the whole point. I prefer to think that falconry is your ability to be trained by an apex predator in order that the apex predator itself trusts you and will allow you to participate in their life. Falconry is what I call a subservient sport. We do not own these birds. We do not necessarily even train these birds. These birds are truly in charge of the relationship, and it's our responsibility in order to adapt to their needs so that they will accept us. You know, a great example I try to get across to new students is that, you know, we go out a nice beautiful fall morning and you trap your first bird. Here in North America, the best bird to start with in falconry is the red-tailed hawk. And so you've passed your test, you've had your equipment inspected, you got everything you need. Now you go out with your sponsor and you trap your first wild bird of prey. When you trap that nice young 6-month-old, what's called a passage red-tailed hawk, I encourage my students to hold the bird for a minute and look it over very, very, very carefully. And I want you to remember everything about that bird. I want you to remember the look in its eyes. I want you to remember the color of its feathers. I want you to remember the smell of its breath and the smell of its feathers and the dust from its feathers and everything that you possibly look at those feet. You know, look at each and every talon. Look at this bird very, very, very closely And once you have taken just a short 2 or 3 minutes to look over this bird very carefully, that I want you to come to the realization that that beautiful animal that you have in your hands is absolutely perfect. There are absolutely no flaws. This is an animal that's been on its own for the last several months. It's been feeding itself. It is a beautiful wild apex predator, and it is as perfect an animal as creation has ever made. Don't screw it up. Because from that moment on, any issues or any problems that you have dealing with this animal is your fault. You have chosen to bring this animal into your captivity. You have chosen, not the bird. The bird hasn't chosen you. You've chosen the bird. And you are now responsible for its entire life. And you are responsible to make its life as good as possible, and to gain this beautiful animal's trust, so that the bird finds that you are a partner with the bird and not a master. Like I said, we don't master these birds, we serve them well. And that's, if there's just one thing in the world that I've learned from falconry over the past 50 years, it's that. And something that I have incorporated into my entire life, with my beautiful wife Susan, my children, my grandchildren, my employees, everyone that I work with, everything that someone would say I own. It's not that I own anything. It's that I have a responsibility, a stewardship, to care for all of these responsibilities as best possible. And if you will take those lessons from falconry and incorporate them into your life, you will have an amazing life. You know, you take that beautiful hawk that you've just trapped, you take it home, and you start the training process. And again, I'm not going to go into a lot of training here. I'm talking about what it takes to become a falconer in this. I have other videos that kind of show the processes that I use in the initial training. And so right now we just kind of want to talk about the ideologies and philosophies. But you take that beautiful animal home, and your first responsibility is going to be outfit the bird with all of the equipment necessary, and then you spend the next, really the next rest of your life that you have this bird in your possession being worthy of the relationship that you will develop for this bird. You know, I have falconers all the time that come up and say, well, you know, I got this beautiful hawk or falcon or even eagle, and the thing isn't worth a damn, it doesn't do what I want, and I'm going to get rid of it because it's a worthless bird. And that breaks my heart, because it's not a worthless bird. In my opinion, it's a worthless falconer. A person that doesn't understand that intimate relationship, doesn't understand that he or she has made the decision to bring the animal into their captivity, and if that falconer isn't skilled enough to work with the animal to gain success, it's not the bird's fault, it's the falconer's fault. And that's the one thing that you really got to get a handle on here. When you're working with animals, and I don't care if it's puppies or kittens, I don't care if it's elephants or eagles, it really doesn't matter. But when you're working with animals, you made the decision. It is your responsibility. You have brought that animal into your captivity, and if things are not working out well for you, it's because you do not have the skills, or you are not adaptable enough, or you don't have the knowledge necessary to make the relationship work. In falconry, it is always the falconer's fault if things aren't going well. And I like to, like I said, to see that in my marriage, in my raising of my children. You know, the understanding, and this is why I'm here talking to you, just the two of us, just you and I, and Susan's not here, is because it is so incredibly important to take the teachings that I've learned from falconry and put it into my personal life. And since I understand that I do not own these animals, neither do I own my beautiful wife Susan. You know, I can call her my wife, and she is, but I do not own her. And for the last 42, almost 43 years, our anniversary's in February, I have spent every day of my life trying to be a good enough person to be worthy of her love and friendship. That is what falconry has taught me. Falconry has taught me that my two beautiful children, that my wife and I brought into this world, were never ours to possess. Our children were our responsibility. It was our stewardship. Let's educate them well. Let's give them a really, really good foundation. And then when they are ready, let's release them into the world. And hopefully my son and my daughter have made and will make the world a better place. My grandchildren the same. I do not own my grandchildren, nor do I possess them. My employees, I give my employees the same kind of latitude to be the very, very best they can be. And if I have an employee that, given that kind of freedom, doesn't work out, well, that's fine, and we wish them well, and we'll even see if we can steer them into a job that's more suitable for them. And so when we take that beautiful, beautiful hawk, falcon, eagle, it's perfection before we take it into our homes. And that is so important to understand that. And then every problem we have is our problem. And I know I'm hammering on this over and over and over again because you really need to understand this. And then once we have these animals accept us, I would like to think that they become friends. Now, just because my hawk and falcons and eagles, you know, like me, doesn't mean that's the reason they return to me. They return to me because I make their lives better and easier. I take my eagle out, he flies free, he flies through the courtship season, he flies thousands of feet in the sky, flies with the wild eagles. And if my eagle, during the courtship season, finds a pretty little lady eagle that is cuter than I am, he has the right to fly away and never come back. I do not own him. He and I have been together, about 16 years? And so I tell everybody that, my eagle and I have been together 16 years, and that's just absolute proof that I'm adorable. I consider Scout my friend, my eagle. And I treasure every single moment that I can spend with him, and that I can have that kind of a relationship where I can actually understand his personality, and I can understand his likes and his dislikes. I can see his intelligence, I can see his humor, And I can just be in absolute awe of how magnificent this animal is. And I have the exact same feeling every time I get to hold my wife's hand and I get to sit next to her and cuddle up on the couch, that for some reason I have been a good enough human being to deserve her friendship. That is what I've learned from falconry. It's a life dedication. It is not a hobby. The more time you put into falconry, the greater the reward that you will extract from falconry. If you see falconry as a tool to go out and kill stuff, you're going to be really disappointed. Falconry, though it is a field sport, it is a hunting sport, true falconry has very little to do with bringing home dead animals. Falconry has everything to do with a tremendously intimate relationship between you and an incredibly wild apex predator. And I truly hope that this little personal talk will help you understand and help you to think about whether this is something that you really want to dedicate your lives to. It has its sacrifices. But falconry has been a big part of making me the husband that I am, and the father that I am, and the employer that I am. The things that I've learned from falconry has taught me well. And I treasure it, and I always will. This is the end of the, talks, hammering you guys, trying to convince you that falconry is tough. The next few videos that we're going to do are going to be incredibly basic information about equipment. We're going to talk about, the jesses, the bellwiths, the hoods, the scales, the housing, called a muse, the telemetry. We're going to talk about a lot of different pieces of equipment.